Welcome to the first ever episode of Three Cranky Jets Fans. I'm Joe Close-Marone, joined by my lovely wife, Trisha Close-Marone, and Matt Callahan. I'm super pumped, guys. We've been planning this for a long time, and it's finally here. How are you feeling?
Hey, feeling good. Feeling good.
Yeah. Matt, how about
Feeling
you?
good. It's always
Looking
good before the season starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always the best time before the season starts. Anyway, Trisha, what are we covering today?
Well, I think the plan for tonight is to talk a little bit about who we are and why we are Jets fans, how we became Jets fans, why we are staying Jets fans, and talk a little bit about some life events, some season just experiences that happened this summer, preseason experiences, and then what are the expectations for the season? What are we hoping for? And what do we think week one is going to look like against the 49ers? So that's the plan for today's show.
That sounds great. That sounds great. All right, let's get this thing done. Who are we? Why are we Jets fans? What is our show's goal? Overall, it's in the title. We are three cranky Jets fans, and that's what we're here to talk about. We love, hate, and what we expect from this endlessly frustrating team. Now, I think we all bring different levels of knowledge, enthusiasm to the table. What we hope makes us entertaining and informative to all listeners, whether they're casual interest or like me, dedicate a lot more time than we probably should to the Jets and the NFL. Matt, Trisha, anything else to add to that?
I really like the phrase endlessly frustrating for this team.
Yeah, I feel like for me, this is a space to just kind of breathe a bit because the Jets really, this endlessly frustrating experience. There's hope. There's so much hope every year. And I think we'll talk about that tonight and probably every season until we die. But I think that this podcast for me is a space to do something productive, cathartic, and hopefully entertaining. But yeah, that's the goal for me at this point.
All right. Well, going on to a little bit about ourselves, Matt. Through my keen observations, I believe you might be the crankiest of the three of us when it comes to the Jets. I know you've been a fan for a long time.
It's also because I'm probably the oldest of the three of us.
Yeah, of course.
Longest
you certainly have lived the longest of all of us, and through that time have experienced just as few Super Bowl appearances with the Jets, which is zero for any of us. So tell us a little bit about how you became a fan and why you're still a fan.
I don't know my exact age, but it was probably like 8 or 9. And I got a Jets t-shirt for my birthday. And it was like a classic, like green and white shirt that just said New York Jets on it. So I think that's what started it, because there were no other teams in the area that had the color green, and that was my favorite color. And then I think around that time, my dad took me to a Jets game, and it's still the only game I've been to for the Jets or the NFL. But it was like
the game you went to when you were just a little boy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the only time I've been to a NFL game.
That's incredible.
And it was at Shea Stadium, so it was definitely like
cool.
Either 1983 or before. It had to be. I want to say it was like either 79 or 80. And like it rained and it was cold. I don't remember much of the game at all. The only thing I really remember about the game was that there was a marching band at halftime that I thought was really cool. But other than that, I didn't know what was going on. But just that I was cold and rainy, which is, I think, perfect metaphor for the start of Jets fandom.
It laid the foundation beautifully. You're like, I don't know what's going on. The best thing is the band. And I'm really unhappy.
Bet money, I'm sure they lost that game. I don't know. I'll have to ask my dad. I think we left early, too, because it was raining so much. And that was it. I think it might have been like while Joe Namath was still playing, because he was definitely I mean, I do have memories of seeing him play, so it had to be that. I don't know when did he stop?
I don't even know.
I'll have to look that up, but that's what it was.
74, something like that. I don't know. That's crazy.
Wow.
And that's where
that's an awesome why. Trisha, I pretty much know the answer to this, but tell us about your fan story with the Jets.
Well, it started in 2013. Joe and I were going out. We went on our first date and had a really great time. It was a Sunday afternoon, little coffee shop called the Coffee Loft. And I didn't know that during this 4-hour date that Joe had missed the Jets game for our date. I didn't know until later, as things became more serious, that he had literally missed the whole game just talking to me, which doesn't sound like that's a huge deal, but the more that you get to know Joe, or if Matt knows Joe very well, right? That's a huge sacrifice. NFL, in particular, Jets
were really in their deep dark period.
I just think everything Jets is like your religion. And when I talk about what my husband cares about, what he's into, it's I can't get more than a few sentences in before something about the Jets football franchise comes up. And so I realized at that moment, kind of early on, I was like, okay, he's into this. And we got, going in our relationship. And I said, well, I don't have an NFL team. I grew up in Southwest Florida. My brothers, I originally was born outside of Philadelphia. My brothers were Eagles fans, but I was just a little girl. I was 2 when we moved to Florida. So I didn't really have a team. The Bucks, I guess, would have been the closest thing, but I really didn't have a team. And I had gone to a ton of college football games. I loved that scene, and I loved watching college football and kind of going through that. But I said to Joe, I don't have an NFL team. I'll be a Jets fan. Why not? That sounds great. And he very quickly discouraged that. He was like, don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to be
you still have a chance.
Yeah. Basically, you were like, you're not going to be happy. And I
Except
was
for the Patriots.
I was like,
right.
no.
We couldn't date us.
Yeah, so he very quickly indoctrinated me on all things Jets, that we hated the Patriots.
Yeah, I think we took more enjoyment hating on the Patriots for the first, all of our entire relationship.
That's all you had.
Really? Because the Jets have been terrible.
Well, this is the thing, though. So,
have enjoyment from watching the Jets.
I think it's ironic that I'm participating in a cranky Jets fans, right? There's 3 cranky Jets fans, because for those who know me, I am not a very cranky person. And so slowly the Jets have taken me from an optimistic, positive human and just broke me down every season. And I actually, so this is my 10th year, 11th. I'm going into my 11th year as a proclaimed Jets fan. And I'm going to say there was a dark season for me. There was 2 or 3 years where I think I just said I don't even care what they do. And of course I'd watch a game or two and I'd get disheartened and I'd try not to care, and then I'd care. But, yeah, they wore me down.
Credit. You get pumped up.
I know.
The Jets have been the worst over the past 10 years. Terrible for their entire history. I mean, they've never had a stretch like this. We're going 13 years without a playoff appearance now, and it's just been abysmal. And last year was a cut through the heart, especially with all the expectations there were. But just cutting back to your original story about our first date where I missed that game, I will say Trisha was pretty late, about an hour late to that first date, and I spent the entire time on my phone reading Jets news.
There was a miscommunication about the time of the date, but I'm going to wrap up my why I stay a fan. Despite the fact that they have disappointed me and made me cranky so many times. I think the reason that I can stay a fan is that because I saw this loyalty that Joe has, right, to the Jets. And I thought, oh my God, if that man can spend 40 years of his life loyal to this team that just shits on him, he's going to be an awesome husband. Because, like, I'm pretty darn nice to you and you stick around. But if I have a bad day, I know you're going to forgive me and come back.
It's true. I was only 30 at the time.
Okay.
But moving on to me, I've been a Jets fan probably since I was like 13, 14 maybe, officially. I was raised to be a Giants fan. My grandfather had season tickets to the Giants. And my dad had like all these sources for tickets to different games, either through work or friends or family that had season tickets. We didn't go to a ton of games, but more often than not, nobody wanted to go to the Jets games. And he had access to a bunch of those. So we ended up going to those. The first game I ever went to was, I don't really remember the specifics, but I know Boomer Esiason was the quarterback. And I just remember hearing that name and like, he was a big deal. I knew that much. And seeing him play, I was like, Boomer, that dude. Yeah, let's go. And in all honesty, I love the colors. I loved going to the Hess gas stations when I would see them because there weren't that many around. And the Hess family, of course, owned the Jets at the time. And I was into that. That was when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. But then really the thing that hooked me was when Wayne Corbett was picked up by the Jets. He was an undrafted free agent, I believe, out of Hofstra. And he grew up a Jets fan. He was pretty strong in the local community. And I thought, like, wow, that's cool. That's a cool story. And that really, like, hooked me in. And my entire Jets fandom, I've always been interested in the players specifically. And I mean, there have been a lot of knuckleheads on the Jets, but there have also been some really strong characters as well. And I think it's interesting to follow those storylines. So I hope we get to do the same on this podcast. And that's my story. I've been sticking with the Jets ever since. My father finally gave in. He wasn't a strong Giants fan, but he definitely was one. And he let me know it was okay to be a Jets fan by buying me not a starter jacket, which was what I always wanted as a kid. Do you remember those, Matt?
Yep.
I loved those things. I wanted one so badly, but he got me, there was a competitor, I think it was like Polar or something like that. And it was a full zip up, but he got me one of those. And that was when I knew it was okay to come out of the closet and be a Jets fan. So anyway, awesome. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that happened this summer. Nothing major. We both had opportunities to go to some live Jets events. Trisha and I and our 5-year-old son, Judah, went to the Jets-Panthers preseason game. And this was the first ever live event for you and for our son. Trisha, what was your experience like going to that? I mean, I think that was your first ever professional football game?
It was my first Jets game. Oh. I lived in Jacksonville and saw a Jaguars-Eagles game, I don't know, 20 years ago, but it was my first Jets event, right? So I was excited. It was a preseason game, which I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. I still can't really wrap my head around what's going on with the preseason games. And maybe you guys can enlighten this, but like, I don't know what the goal is of the preseason game. If you're not going to play any of your starters, or even like in this scenario, the Jets didn't play even their second string. Like, yeah, I was stoked to see them so close, and I was really excited to like be next to Aaron Rodgers and stand next to, Sauce Gardner. I was like, oh, it's him. We were very close, but the whole idea of this like preseason experience felt like a little bit, I don't know, just
So there's now this whole movement of coaches that are not starting any of their starters or players deemed important in preseason games. And the reasoning behind that is they have these joint practices now, and they're able to evaluate their starters under specific conditions that they want to see. Now, some of those coaches are reserving the preseason games specifically to evaluate
Their second
players that they're looking to see, do I want this person on my team? So they're evaluating those things mostly. And also themselves, it's practice for them for real game scenarios. So they're kind of getting those game time situations and calls in, like how they're going to feel during a game.
Okay.
Because it's not natural for every coach.
Yeah, it just felt like a little bit charade to me that we're going to watch all these other guys who actually aren't ever going to get play time do it. But at the same time, it was a great time. The Panthers hosted us, and they put on this great family event ahead of time for the kids.
Yeah, they had the NFL Play 60, and our son got to participate in that. He was
having a good time.
Having a great time.
Yeah, and I think, too, just like being out at an NFL game, staying out late, having, lights in the city. So Bank of America Stadium is in downtown Charlotte. So it's what they call uptown, right? It's right in the center of everything. And that was a fun experience to get to have that.
That was really cool to have the stadium. It's just in the center of town, essentially. Yeah. Like, you just walk up to a professional football stadium. Like, I don't understand that being a native New Yorker or like a native of any large city. Your stadium has to at least be 3 hours away and give you some sort of like heart attack to get to.
And you have to be stuck in traffic to get to it.
You have to have cursed several people off in the process of getting to these games.
Yeah, so just to walk up was fun. That was very fun.
It's like a nice little play in the park, and then you just kind of jot right in, and everything's easy peasy. Of course, it's a preseason game, and it was like a quarter capacity, but still, it was nice. Yeah, it was a fun experience. Our little man was up way past bedtime, and he kind of resembled like a 50-year-old drunk man cheering on his team halfway through it. Go Jets!
Very good. From the videos I've seen, very much so.
Look, I think he could spell Jets before he could spell his own name. I really do.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, which is fun. Matt, how about you? I know that you went to some sort of thing this summer.
Yeah, it was a practice, right? I think it was called a practice.
It wasn't a joint practice, though, was it?
No, it was only the Jets. It was at their, what is it, Florham Park? Is that where they have it?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Florham Park facility, which is really nice looking.
It looks nice.
Weird. What I got to point out right away about it was really well organized, which I guess was a surprise because, like, you park at the college across the street, and like they tell you, oh, there'll be shuttle buses, and as soon as you hear there'll be shuttle buses, you're like, it's going to be a pain, and it's going to be awful. But like, we parked, and there was a shuttle bus waiting for us, and dropped us right off at like the entrance, and it was just, and I noticed, like, going back, like, they had buses right away ready for you. Like, we didn't have to wait for one. We just got on. They drove us over. Right. They drove you around the parking lot so that you could get off where your car was instead of just one spot. So it was like,
wow,
shockingly nice to the fans.
Go Jets.
Yeah. So we have
surprised.
Like in-person, first-hand evidence.
There's some infrastructure happening.
The Jets can organize like something.
Sports team treating its fans nicely.
Okay.
That's incredible. So did you get to actually see some of the main guys play then?
Yeah, everybody was there. It was like a full practice. It was really hot that day too, but it was like beautiful. Like, there was just like it was a beautiful day, but really hot. And there's like two fields, and they were practicing on one. There's like some stands where you could sit in, but there's not enough seats for everybody. So it was like, when we first got there were no seats, and like we were just like standing near a fence watching. And then I was shockingly, I got cranky being in the heat. So I like went over to where like the food was and sat down and told like Laura and them to let me know, where they were. Or we went back to look at all the merch. They had a huge merch tent. They had like some play areas for kids, like this like cool, like, blow up, almost like a thing that kids could run through tackle dummies and into the end zone.
Cool.
That looked fun. And then like we looked through all the merch tent. That was cool. They had a lot of neat stuff there. And then like they went back to watch, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit here in the shade. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But then they found seats and texted me, so I went over.
Nice.
And that's what
you
was
were
really
working
cool,
that
'cause then,
system.
yeah, I was like, I'm not doing that. But by the time like we got over there for seats, they were like playing a practice game, like with both quarterbacks and everybody, and they were like calling penalties and everything. And it was just like they were using the whole field and like just taking turns. Like the offense had a certain number of downs to get a down, and if they failed, then the other offense would take over. So that was really cool to watch. Seeing some like good throws, actual throws, like running and stuff. That was the coolest part. And like we just watched that, and that was great actually to see.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been there with you guys, but maybe next year.
Yeah, I would definitely go back because I'd hope for like cooler weather, but I would definitely do it again.
Cool.
That's a big deal because sometimes these events that they put on, like they can become a bust very quickly, I think. I'm like, whether it's the shuttle system or the this or the that. But so it's just to say, like, I would go back. That's, I mean, it sounds like it's
the tricky
a good time.
part with those especially is that, like, Robert Saleh especially, he'll call practice very quickly if he doesn't like the weather or whatever.
Yeah.
If it's raining a little bit, and he'll just like, okay, we're moving it inside, no fans or something like that. And that actually happened to us Judah and I last year when we went to visit the joint practice in Spartanburg, and they canceled the practice like minutes before we got there.
It was like raining, right, or something?
It was just rain. Like it didn't even rain.
Oh,
but there was like threat of rain, so they ended up moving to an indoor practice that was not even joint.
It was also cool seeing him there and like the coaching staff, like seeing him in person. Cool. And like it's funny to watch them coaching from, because they don't, during the practice game, they're not standing on the sidelines. They were like standing behind like the quarterback, like a little bit, like but they're in the middle of the field watching it.
That's
and I guess
cool.
they called the like,
because it's like the all 22 view.
Yeah. I don't know who was calling like penalties, but like it was cool to see them call penalties on like team.
Yeah, I don't think they had
their own
refs
team
on the field.
Yeah, they didn't have refs. It was like coaches calling penalties, and it was also cool because they had like a DJ playing music, which I thought was funny while the game was going on.
That's awesome.
And I think it was to like simulate enough crowd noise to make play calling tough, or that's what Laura's cousin's theory was.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think the players probably like the music too.
Yeah, I think it was both, but like that was cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Sounds like we all had some fun going to those experiences over the summer. Let's get into the season. I know we've been going on. Let's talk about what our expectations are. I'm going to go first, and I'll say we're just a few days ahead of the season opener against the 49ers. This is definitely the most optimistic time of year for any Jets fan, really any football fan, because nothing has gone wrong, nothing's gone right. You just have your dreams, right? And whatever news you may or may not have read. I read all the news, and fortunately, I'm still optimistic. And I'll say right now, I actually feel about the most optimistic about this Jets team that I've ever felt in my entire fandom. This is a solid roster. I know Mr. Cranky Pants over there.
I just can't wait to hear what he has to say about the season. Right.
It's a strong roster. And at the same time, I am a seasoned Jets fan, and I know that my heart can get shattered just like it did last year and every year before. But
can you talk about like why you're feeling so optimistic? What is it that's the magic for you this year that is standing out?
There's not really any holes in the team. Yes, there are a lot of injury risks going into this season. There are a lot of veteran players on the older side, but the depth is there this year. The backups are fairly strong at almost every position. There's not a ton of holes. The only thing going into this season that's a hiccup, and of course the Jets have the most dramatic news story going in with like a contract holdout being Hassan Reddick that they picked up from the Eagles. But that defense, he's obviously edge rusher on the defensive side of the ball. And he's been a star with 3 other teams, the last of which being the Eagles. But the defensive line, I feel, has a strong enough depth. I will give Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich enough credit, and the defensive coaching line coaching team credit that they have been able to bring up time and time again these players that are undrafted free agents, bubble players left behind by other teams, and they've coached them up to a point where now other teams want them. And so Will McDonald being the person that is essentially going to take the place of Hassan Reddick, and people were disappointed by his rookie season last year. I feel confident that he is at least going to show some progress, and this defense is so overwhelming on the whole that Hassan won't be missed. And in all honesty, with the whole contract holdout and dispute, I think there's a lot of talk about, Joe Douglas, the GM, should have seen this coming, and he should have just given him a new contract right off the bat. The Eagles didn't want him anymore, and I feel like there's a reason. I don't know anything about his personality, but there's a reason he's been on 3 different teams with the amount of performance that he's had. He's been a double-digit sack producer every year for the past, I think, 4 years running, and has still gotten passed along. There's something there that is a reason to have him not brought on full-time, essentially. And I think I'm fine with Joe Douglas waiting until he actually gets in the building to feel this guy out and maybe save him a little money. Beyond that, why I'm optimistic about the Jets this Jets season, I just, going back to the team on a whole, I just can't really pick any holes in the roster from a play standpoint. There's lots of sub stories that you could get into, but on paper, this is a very strong roster. That's really all I have to say about it.
Matt, how about you? How are you feeling about this season?
I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, I am optimistic right now about this season, even though I'd say at the start of every Jets season, I am optimistic, but I also feel like I'm looking at Ivan Drago saying, pain to be. That's how I approach the Jets season. I'm still a little gun shy from last season because I was very optimistic last season, even convinced myself that I liked Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. But, and we all saw how that ended up. But
yeah,
I think, like Joe said, I think, this is a good team right now. And I'm anxious to see how they mess things up, but hopefully they don't. I'm never worried about their defense because their defense is just always good. In all these bad years, they've been like great defensive team until they just the offense just lets them down so much that they can't be good anymore during the season. Yeah. But just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
How many wins you got?
I don't even know. I'm afraid. Like, I hate predicting stuff because
it's painful.
I'm giving them 11 to 12.
Wow.
if they
I'm going to the divisional round at least.
I'd be if they had 10 wins, I'd be ecstatic. So, but I could see that's what I think is interesting about them is that they definitely could have 11 to 12 wins, like easily.
Yeah. I'm assuming they split with all the playoff potential teams, and that would probably put them at around 11, between 11 and a half.
I'd take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That brings us to Trisha. What do you got?
Man, expectations for the season. I'm just still so jaded from last year. Like, I can't stop unseeing that play where Aaron Rodgers just went down and like all of the hopes and the dreams all just laid on the field. And I watched Hard Knocks last season and I was so pumped. And then like, I know we don't have to go back to that moment, right? We don't have to, but like it is very difficult for me, even in this moment, knowing what we know, to do anything but just like want to hold my breath. Like like that's the feeling I have is like, where are they going to get us? Like, where are they going to hurt us? This is how I feel. But I don't even know if this is a but or like and also I want them to do well. And I think that, the lineup is fun. It's like a good group of guys out there and a lot of talent.
I love that about this staff or, this iteration of the Jets organizations that like character, you constantly hear them talking about character.
I was just thinking about their physical skills. Like, I mean,
that's fun too.
Yeah, I mean, character, I will take character all day long, but I also I just think there's a lot of talent. And so I'm stoked. I'm excited to see it kind of come to be. I really hope that we get to see Aaron Rodgers follow through on what he said he wanted to do 2 years ago. And like the fact that he stuck with it, he rehabbed, he's still his conversation about the season is still as positive, or if not more so than it was last. It just gives me some hope to have a good time. I would like to watch them win a handful of games.
I want to see them like beat down a couple teams. I feel like I've seen that, but
it's just going to be nice.
Just want a couple. Yeah. Yes, we're here, and you guys suck. Like everybody else,
I just want to watch some good football. I want to watch because you can't watch all the games. So if we're going to be watching the Jets games, like, please give us some good football. Is how I feel.
Good football, yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
and I've always liked Tyrod Taylor for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think I must have watched a game he was in a few years ago where he played really well. And ever since then, I'm like, he's a good quarterback, even though I don't know if he is.
He's solid. I mean, he's borderline.
I mean, he's not. He's better than anything we've had in years.
Yeah,
he's
sure.
what?
He's been injury prone, unfortunately.
Well,
that's a deal.
Who was he with before?
He was with the Giants last year. The season before that, he was with the Chargers. He started out with the Bills.
Right. That's when I first saw him, I think. I must have saw him have a great game for the Bills, and I was like, that guy's good. That was it.
I mean, I don't know if you guys caught the year that I came in, 2013, it was Geno Smith. So
he's
starting for the Seahawks.
Is now, he's the starter and had a good year last year.
Good luck, buddy. I don't know.
We're really good at, seasoning guys.
Really good at seasoning them. Yeah, that's...
right.
And I also know, like I pointed out to you, I think, Joe, we had our fantasy football draft a few days ago, that there were 2 Jets in the top 10 in Yahoo's rankings.
Yeah, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson.
I don't think I've ever seen since as long as we've been playing fantasy football.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think those are going to be solid. I mean, knock on whatever I can. I think they're going to be solid fantasy players. Don't take my advice on fantasy. I am terrible every year, and I fully relied on auto draft this year.
You've got a chance then. You've got a chance.
So I've got a chance, yeah. But
let's talk game one.
Let's talk game one. San Francisco 49ers against the Jets. This is probably the toughest matchup the Jets will have all year in game one. I'll go first on this one. I know every analyst out there in the world has the 49ers winning this one. Unfortunately, I have to agree. I think it's a bit of a dogfight. But this offense is such an unknown right now with the Jets. They're not proven. I know that both defenses are going to be strong. I think the 49ers have suffered some casualties going into this year. They're not going to be quite as strong as they were last year, but I'm not going to put it past them. They're still going to be pretty intense, and this offense is still going to be coming together for the Jets. On the other side, the 49ers offense is a proven commodity, and they're going to put up points even against a very strong Jets defense. I would say I think the Jets' average last year was somewhere in the neighborhood of 17 to 20 points per game they allowed. I would put the 49ers a little over that as an outlier. I'm guessing they're going to put up about 24 points, and I'm hoping the Jets have a strong showing and put up 21 points with 3 solid touchdown drives. I would like to see that. If they keep it that close, I will be very happy, especially going into I don't even know what the heck they call that stadium. It's Candlestick as far as I'm concerned.
I think is it Levi's?
I think it's Levi's Stadium. Yeah, that's right.
Levi's.
Yeah.
The jeans?
So anyway, going out west, the Jets historically...
The jeans. No candlesticks.
Yeah. Historically, the Jets do not play well going out west.
Levi's, if you're looking to sponsor us, we are available. This is
Yeah, we like jeans. We do. It's about to get chilly here. We'll wear them.
Matt, what are you thinking for week one?
We have a rough and tumble 5-year-old who loves to get
rough and
They're not
tumble.
listening, honey. They're not listening. Levi's is not listening. All right, Matt, what do you got for us for week one?
That's a tough one. I don't know how they're going to be. I do think that the Jets could surprise them and win the game, but I don't think they will. I think it's going to be like Joe said.
Sure.
I'm hoping it's going to be close. Like, even if it was like 24-17, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. A respectable
just to
showing.
see. Yeah. I don't expect them to beat them. I think they could. Like, if everything aligned well, they could beat them. But, like, away, I don't think so. But
I'm gonna go another route with this one. I am. Just because, like, go Jets, right? So I think that they're gonna come out ready to go, like ready to show off, showboat a little bit. Like this, they finally got the dream team going on. I'm gonna say the Jets are gonna win 28 points, Jets, 21 points, San Francisco. And I'm just doing that because that's why not say what you want? You know, let's see what I'd like to see that game. I'd like to see that game.
That's moxie.
Speak it into truth.
Yes.
I can see the Jets coming out and scoring an early touchdown that surprises the Niners, like right away.
Sure.
They're ready.
I'm hoping for like a 75-yard bomb.
Yeah.
Or actually like a 15-yard to Garrett Wilson. He just like does his little shimmy thing and shakes out of all the defenders and runs it for another 60.
Why they're not calling you to coach. Aaron, shimmy.
Do your shimmy.
Gary.
Shimmy, Gary, shimmy.
Of everything I want to see Garrett Wilson have a great year. Just one.
I think he will.
To really see him have a great year. But hopefully.
Yeah. Well, let's go for it.
I think he will. All right. Well, that's going to do it. We got through it. It's too late to take it back. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe. Our next show will be out probably next Wednesday, where we'll give our reactions to Game 1 and preview Week 2. Until then.